a white boar from South Africa. I don't mean Boar, Boer, boar, like a white South African, is really angry with me and wrote to me. And it's the first email today in our Friday feedback. And it's really whacked out stuff. I think you, an idiot. You know the way you crack Trump down is a shame. You cannot even stand behind you microphone. Trump is 79 years old, and your disrespectful behavior makes me sick. You should be ashamed of yourself. Obviously, you never even go to the military, hence the reason why you are so slapgat. Hope next time you cross a road, a bus drives over you. And I hope it don't kill you, but makes you old before your time without a voice to continue speaking all the shit you speak and that you cannot stand still on two legs. You are lower than shit. You're ashole and idiott. Wrong your, by the way. I invite you to visit South Africa so that I can smack you so hard that you will never hear again, Mr. Idiot, from a white boar. Oh boy. This is from Christian. I don't want to comment on most of this because it's just so rancid and really indicative of both seriously antisocial tendencies and potentially severe mental illness. But the one thing I do want to mention is if I didn't go to the military and that's a strike against me, what about Trump? What about Trump's "my ankles hurt" letter that got him out of the military? Oh, I know. That doesn't actually apply to everybody. That only applies to Trump. I understand. Connie Kirkpatrick wrote in and with a beautiful message of love and healing and said, I wanted you to know, this is from Substack, I wanted you to know that listening to you has been beneficial. I appreciate the lack of name calling, slander, mimicry that for so many others seem to feel a need to employ. I want information, not the drama. I can watch the original for that. I keep coming back because you keep it balanced and informational. Thank you. Well, thank you, Connie. I really do appreciate that. I am always doing the best I can, although sometimes, there's a little slander here and there on the show and a little bit of mimicry if we can do it, but not that much, not that much. People weighing in on producer Pat filling in for me on Wednesday as I incredibly strongly re-entered the US of A from Canada. Producer Pat filling in. Dustin Glover wrote, I like producer Pat, but I'm always a little disappointed when it's not David hosting the show. Well, you know what? You should be a little disappointed, right? I mean, like, how much could you like the show if you turn it on and someone else is hosting? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. And then Carolyn Ritchie said, I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh my God, a producer Pat episode. So a lot of mixed feelings when I'm missing. If you really like it when I'm not hosting that much, you probably shouldn't even be liking the show. I think like that's kind of the basis for the entire framework, but great reviews, strong marks for producer Pat. Here's a very interesting comment from YouTube about the continued issues with notifications and traffic and recommendation algorithms. I've been switching my notifications to all, and the algorithm responded positively. I'm seeing my people again. Pass the word to other podcasters that speak the truth like you, David. Appreciate all your knowledge. Yeah, so listen, after I blew the whistle on the YouTube recommendation algorithm, really treating us brutally, so nastily, really unfairly, a lot of you started changing you, first of all, subscribing if you weren't already subscribed on YouTube, which is important, but then setting your notifications to all, telling YouTube, I want to know about David's videos. And many of you now writing in that you're finally seeing me in your algorithm again. So it does seem to be helping. Definitely keep doing it is, I guess, the message I would point to you. Okay. From the subreddit, Emotional Ant wrote, liberals should stop pushing the National Popular Interstate Compact. What they mean is National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And they write, it's driving me mad that states where liberals have the majority in government are joining this compact. It's another case of tying our own hands. The reason is because Republican states are not doing the same. This means that in elections where a Democrat loses the popular vote but wins the Electoral College, Democrats will hand their state's votes to Republicans. But Republican states will not do the same when Democrats win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College. We are literally celebrating the idea of giving Republicans an advantage in presidential elections. No, they are completely wrong. Okay, this is just not how the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact would work. The way that NPVIC would work is it only triggers when enough states are in to total 270 electoral votes. So the scenario this person is describing, where only Democratic states participate and it ends up helping Republicans, it cannot happen the way it is designed. Until the compact reaches 270 electoral votes from the states that join, nothing changes. Nothing at all changes. Once you have 270 that join, at that point, you have a national popular vote. It doesn't matter what the states that haven't joined do because they no longer control a majority of the popular vote. So this of the electoral vote, this criticism is not possible mathematically. I think the stronger criticism is, are we sure that the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact wouldn't face legal challenges successfully? That's, I think, the bigger question. And I don't have the answer to that at this point in time. Nats Curly wrote on the subreddit, why wasn't David included in the Cuba trip? I believe what they're referring to is this Cuba trip involving Code Pink and Hassan Piker. And the post says, why wasn't David included in the Cuba trip? I looked at the list of who went, and it was a lot of left-leaning internet people and activists as well as Democrats. David speaks Spanish, and he could have done some great reporting on a trip like that. Seems like a missed opportunity. So listen, I wasn't invited because I'm not part of this kind of, oh boy, I'm not part of the authoritarian left that defends authoritarian regimes. So I would never be invited on these trips to places like Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, China, Russia. I wouldn't be invited because I'm an anti-authoritarian leftist. Now, even if I had been invited, my ability to do reporting, I don't know how much people know about these sorts of trips. The idea that you can do reporting is not really reality. You can't really do reporting on these trips. They are sort of limited, sanitized opportunities to see what they want you to see. For example, during the Cuba trip, I believe that all of the people that went had electricity the entire time they were there. A relatively limited portion of the Cuban people have electricity 24 hours a day. They were able to have access to really nice hotels and restaurants that the Cuban people could never afford, for example. So, it's just not my thing. They never would have invited me. I wouldn't have gone. And by the way, I think the trip was of questionable legality. Now, I'm against the Cuban embargo. I'm against it. But as the law exists, I don't know if that trip was completely legal. So it wasn't a missed opportunity. It's not my thing. I would love to go to Cuba under circumstances where I could really see the country and how the average person is living and be confident that I could report honestly about that. I don't think that trip would have been the case, but they never would have invited me. Those people don't like me. I'm an anti-authoritarian leftist. The people that went love and are tied to some of these authoritarian regimes, and they just never would even consider me for it. All right, a Facebook post about Donald Trump's ear. Casey writes, healed in a week, no scar, and cartilage does not grow back. It was a blood capsule like they use on movie sets. All three, meaning all three assassination attempts, were staged. Listen, do I think it's possible that Donald Trump's ear was cut by a piece of glass from the teleprompter? and that he wasn't actually grazed by a bullet. I think that that's possible. I think that that is possible. Do I believe that the entire thing was staged? I don't. Do I believe that the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting was staged? I don't. I've extensively gone into the reasons why I don't believe that. I'm not going to do it again today, but it is not my belief, nor do I think there is any evidence that the blood on Donald Trump's ear at the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting attempt was a movie prop blood capsule sort of thing, because I have no evidence of that whatsoever. Sam Webb writing on Facebook, that question was about Iran and ended in reflecting pool. Am I right? You are absolutely right. Sam is referring to the non sequiturs of Donald Trump. Donald Trump was recently asked about Iran, and he did what he calls the weave. Some of us call it dementia. Some of us call it, there's a lot of things we could call it. Some of them wouldn't be appropriate for the show. It started with Iran, and Trump ended up talking about his reflecting pool. His reflecting pool project, which is to repaint the bottom of the reflecting pool at a cost of $13 million. He cannot keep it straight. He cannot avoid straying from various and random topics. And it is a really scary trait for a president to have. Aaron Nelson says, it is so obvious they're setting up the conditions to create major health crises. They'll weaken all protective systems until we eventually collapse. I've heard these hypotheses before. Let me explain what Aaron's talking about. Aaron is arguing that the reason the Trump administration and maybe even global elites aren't doing enough about hantavirus or Ebola, or even some of the tick-borne viruses that are spreading in the Northeast and elsewhere. The reason that they aren't doing anything about it is they want it to happen to wipe out a whole bunch of the population and weaken systems and precipitate a collapse. The reason I don't think that this makes any sense and it doesn't pass the sniff test, and this was also said during COVID, the global elites want COVID to take out most of the population so that then what? All of these elites depend on the average person having enough money to pay for products and services that they sell to enrich themselves. It's sort of like drug dealers don't want to do too much killing of their customers because then you have nobody to sell drugs to. Same sort of concept. I don't think that I've never understood, I'll put it that way, the claims that the elites want a ton of people to die to decimate the population, because putting aside whether we think morally they would do it, I simply don't think it makes sense for them economically and financially. If I'm missing something about that, please let me know and make sure that you are ready for Tuesday's one-day membership drive. We will be discounting annual memberships massively on Tuesday. The point is to keep building this pro-democracy movement. I want you to be a part of it. We are running an increasingly important operation here. We have a larger staff than we have ever had. We have expenses. We want to be here. And so we're doing a one-day membership drive on Tuesday. Get on my newsletter at davidpakman.com/Substack. And then you will be notified Tuesday of the big deal that we are doing. Thanks for watching. Check out this other video. And if you like our content, make sure to subscribe so YouTube puts our videos in your feed, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple.